Nightfall at Gold Strike, a supernatural encounter.
So one time back in 2021, like late spring, my boy moved to go do this hike out in Arizona called Gold Strike. And at first I didn't even want to go. I was like, nah brr, it's gonna be a mission and shit, but he was hella convincing and was like, come on brah, it'll be cool. I'll bring some weed and everything, it'll be fun. So eventually I gave in and was like, fuck it, let's go. So we set off, head over to the hike, which is like 40 minutes away. We get there and we start chipping away at the journey. Mind you, the hike is literally 5 miles long, which takes about 2 hours going one way, but it's a pretty cool hike. There's rope climbs and you gotta do some Parker Shy to get to the hot springs. So we make our way to the end of the hike and everything was normal, nothing weird happened, and we finally get to the end where they got the hot springs and Shy. And there was some other hikers there already when we get there too, so we chill for a while and we were basically there all day just vibing, smoking in the hot springs, and we were chilling in this hot spring with this one couple while we were smoking, and the girl asks if she can hit our blunt, so we were like, sure, no problem. And so we start chatting it up, smoking together, and by this time all the other hikers had already started heading back because the sun was going down. So as we were smoking, I noticed the girl kind of had a weird vibe, like she had jet black hair with weird tattoos and her eyes. When I looked into them, it's like she had no light in her eyes, as if I was staring into two black holes, and her BF barely said a word. Anyways, as we were smoking, the conversation somehow turned into a bunch of spiritualistic stuff and about how her sister had died in a car crash and all this stuff I barely remember, but I just remember it was strange and off-putting. Eventually we finished smoking and her BF start to head out. As she was leaving, she told me and my friend, y'all should start to head back soon, it's about to get really dark. And me and my friend were like, oh, we're fine, it'll be fun to go back in the dark. It'll make for a different experience. She looked upset and was like, okay, y'all be safe, so they leave, and me and my boy were the only ones left. We chill for about another 20 to 25 minutes before we start heading back, but before we did, we wanted to have some blunts rolled for the way back. So, while we rolled up, we set up a lil fire real quick cause my boy brought some kerosene. So we set up the fire and we roll up our blunts, but for some reason the fire kept going out by itself. We'd keep lighting the fire and it would burn for maybe 30 seconds before going out again. Mind you, we were in a ravine, so it couldn't be the wind putting it out, and we thought that's weird, maybe it's just the oxygen down here is different or something. But I remember when that happened, I had a cold feeling brush over me. I didn't think much of it, and I just kind of ignored it. After that, we finished rolling our blunts and started to head back on our journey. We had the music playing on the speaker and the blunt going, and at this point the sun had already set and it was dark out. We were probably around 40 minutes into our walk when all of a sudden I hear footsteps behind us. It sounded like rocks crunching not even that far behind, as if someone was following us. Me and my friend instantly looked back and shone the flashlight to see, but there was nothing there. We looked back at each other and I said, you heard that too, right? He nodded W with wide eyes, and I said that didn't even sound like an animal, it sounded like footsteps. He agreed. And then we turned off the music completely. From there we continued walking while looking over our shoulders every few moments. And if it was just the weed making me paranoid, but I couldn't help but to feel this weird eerie feeling as if someone was watching us. I could feel the energy. It was a real creepy vibe. Not that long after that, as we were walking from the corner of my eye, I saw a tall, dark, shadowy figure come out from behind a rock. In that moment, I felt my blood turn cold and I jumped. My friend asked me, you good? And I told him, bro, I just saw something. Run. Let's GTFO here RN. We booked it and took off running all the way to the car, constantly checking over our shoulders the whole way back. On the way back in my head, I was thinking we were gonna eventually run into that weird goth girl we met at the hot springs earlier and catch up, and that it'd be relieving to see other survivors, but she was nowhere to be found. It was as if she just disappeared. We finally make it back to the car, and we were the only ones there. There was no other cars in the parking lot, despite that I still felt like someone was watching us. From there, before we get in the car, we check the back seats just to make sure, and we take off so quick. When I got home, I burned some Palo Santo to try and make sure nothing followed me home and that I didn't bring any spirits into my house. What's crazy too is I looked it up and found how multiple people have died on that hike from heat stroke. I haven't been to that hike since.